All righty, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of the War Room. We do appreciate everybody that comes out and spends a little bit of time with us. It's going to be a great show. Absolutely a great show because we have, of course, great co-hosts and we have great guests in the house. Of course, Ardwulf Lair. How you doing, buddy? It's been a while.
It has been a little while. Yeah, we were, talking about doing something at Buckeye Game Fest, and I guess that's off the table. I'll still be there. And then Origins, so we'll get to actually do something. Hope you like playing Third World War, because that's what we're playing.
Is that what you're playing?
That is
Yeah,
what
I don't know what my schedule is going to be. I'm going to have, it's kind of my hometown up there, so I've got like lots of people that wants to schedule things with me and all that. So I don't know what my schedule is going to be, but I will definitely be there for Origins. And of course, I'm trying to meet up with Tony when we come up, and I would love to meet up with you, Ardwulf, and do.
All kind of folks are going to be there.
Yeah, I know, great. Right? So it should be a lot of fun. And poor Ruff over there doesn't know anything about what we're talking about.
I do actually. Don't just because I'm British doesn't mean to say I'm a moron, but although that could be true in my case. But we do have a convention of our own going on in May, so I'm looking forward to going to that.
And what's that one called?
That's called PunchCon, and it's organised by a chap called James Buckley, who is quite well known over here, and our best known local game store, if you like, for the country, Second Chance Games.
Right. So, let's do a quick intro for everyone out there. Just say hi to everyone. Harold is here as well. And of course, a lot of you people are going to be familiar with names because I see you over on Ardwulf's channel. So Ardwulf, you got a great show on Monday, every Monday at 8:00.
That's true. People watch it.
I watch it all the time,
but people do.
So talk to me about that. You talk war games and you drink whiskey, and it's a great show.
That's pretty much what it is. I mean, every once in a while we'll do something that's not like a not wargaming topic, but I think I've done 2 of those, something like that, where the topic is explicitly not wargaming. And even on, I think both of those, we talked a fair amount about wargaming. So yeah, we run a live show. I think the next one will be number 117. I've missed 2, maybe 3 weeks during that period. We managed to not screw it up this past Winterfest. So, I started doing it more or less at random, and people were inexplicably watching, and they have continued to watch, and apparently they can deal with more of me than my wife can. So that's just the way it is.
Here's the thing. When you have a regularly scheduled program at the same time every week, people just naturally go, oh, it's 8:00 on Monday. Ardwulf's on.
That's true.
And they can just tune you in every time. And then, of course, you do something on Tuesday with Dan.
With Dan, the Dan Noodle Man, as I'm calling him now. That's true. Yeah. We've been doing that regularly. We've been alternating channels week to week, which is a little bit of a pain in the ass. And so Streamyard's got this new thing where we can actually stream to both channels at once. So I think we're going to be taking advantage of that from now on.
And how does that work, Ardy? Tell me again.
When you if whoever's set the show up, when you click on the little thing to invite people and you pull up the link, there's a toggle on there that says allow others to stream to their own destinations. Actually, you just turn that on. And then when they get into StreamYard, right where you would see the go live button, you'll see another go live. They'll see a go live button and they can hit it, whatever they've set up with StreamYard. So
we'll have to remember
I think there's a lot of potential there for cross pollination between different channels, specifically for wargaming, but in general, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a thing that you cannot easily do in any platform other than StreamYard that I have tried.
Right, and the other thing you can do, which you never could do before now, I know it's only 720, but you can record on StreamYard now.
That's true. That's been around for a few months now.
Yeah, it's first time I did that. So, and it's easier than what do you call it? What's the other thing?
And I use StreamYard even for my own just me stuff. So because it works great, I can highlight comments and all that stuff. So it's got a lot of things in it. I can put in little video clips without having to set that up myself in OBS.
You can set up your live streams ahead of time too, right? You can set up like
I do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I usually do it Normally, I have my Monday topic in mind by about Sunday. So I'll normally set it up on Monday morning so people know it's coming. But the show with Dan, sometimes we don't get that thing scheduled. If Dan's in charge, we don't get that thing scheduled till 7:27.
Well, that's why you emailed me this morning, and I was like, dude, I don't even set it up till it's time. So I guess I'm like a Dan.
Now, I think for the notification purposes from YouTube, though, I think it's actually a good idea to not schedule it too far in advance.
Mhm.
If I schedule it like a week in advance, it's going to drop off everybody's feed. So I prefer to keep it close to the top where possible.
Yeah, quite right.
Okay.
People will forget about it. It's not like you can redo it again once you've done it.
Well, you
you've done it.
can, but that's more of a pain. So
Yeah, you have
don't.
to get rid of that one and put a new one up, I suppose.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to do it ahead of time. Like for when I did it with Ruff, I like to put it on so then I can put that link out. So because we played Panzer Grenadier last
Oh, we
night.
played Panzer Grenadier. I know you love it.
A masochism hour with Ruff and Tony.
I know.
No, it was about 2 hours actually.
Great fun.
So
I appreciate.
That
you
doesn't make
taking
it better.
No, I know, but I appreciate it's not everybody's.
If you guys are enjoying it, I am genuinely delighted for you.
We do. It's one of our favorite games. In fact,
As long as I don't have to play.
And the fact that you said that is one of the most important things because I just had this conversation on a YouTube channel because there was someone that posted a comment and ridiculed someone about what they were doing with their free time. And I'm like, why are you trying to tell somebody they're doing something wrong with their own free time? It just doesn't make sense.
So look, I got
couldn't you
opinions.
just say, if you enjoy it, great.
Yeah, we all got games we love and we hate.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
somebody plays a game you don't particularly like.
Oh, the world and the internet. And my answer was, humans have learned now they can literally do and say whatever they want online, and there are no repercussions whatsoever.
Did he say cumins? Like the little
Humans.
seeds?
Humans.
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 Lovely.
Humans?
isn't that coriander?
Okay.
No,
No, that's different.
No, that's
Okay.
coriander.
Okay.
Well, they got seeds too. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I got opinions, and I'm happy to. I'm a big mouth, so I'm happy to share them. But at the same time, we should generally try to be more careful when we deliver those opinions, right? To make. You could say, "Hey, I don't like this game. This didn't work for me." Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people out there playing. Oh, what do I hate? Carcassonne. I think Carcassonne is just there's nothing there. But there's people right now playing Carcassonne and having a great time with
We
it.
love it. Yeah,
That's
it doesn't
great.
feel to me either.
Let me
Have
ask
fun.
you a question. Speaking of which, have you ever heard of a website called Board Game Arena?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Okay. All right. Do you use it? Have you tried it?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Is it another one of those play your board game online type things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think there was a big hullabaloo, not a big hullabaloo, but there was a bit of a hullabaloo when they brought in a couple of GMT games, as I recall.
There are several GMT games
Mhm.
there. There is Space Empires, Unconditional Surrender. There's a few of
Same
them.
deal, man. If I like Vassal, and I'm going to use Vassal if I'm going to do something like that. I don't care if it's on Board Game Arena or not. But if Board Game Arena or Tabletop Simulator or whatever, and they all have things they're good at and things they're less good at. For the kinds of things that I like to play, Vassal is the best option. So I stick with Vassal. If somebody else is having better results or likes a Tabletop Simulator or whatever better, use that. I don't care.
Right.
I'm just a dude on the internet with an opinion, man. There's
and
no
I'm going to
reason.
have to agree with this comment from Alistair here. You have a fairly encyclopedic knowledge of war games. It's kind of how your brain works. Have you put a lot of effort into building your knowledge? It's a question.
A lot of money, not probably, Gary. A lot of money.
I have got for a long time it wasn't like that. It was just a lot. I have an encyclopedic memory for games. I think not really so much for things like I'm super interested in, I guess is what I'll say. I'll forget to where did I put the car keys on a regular basis. But if you remind me of some story that Jim Ward told in an Origins auction 15 years ago, and I'll probably remember that and be able to relate that story. So, and yet I back off whenever people say this because I get corrected all the time. But I'm happy to take corrections. Right? I misremembered something or I'm flat. I also try to point out when I just don't know. So it's and I get gun shy about that too. It's like, am I really sure about this? Sometimes I won't be, and I'll back off.
And you get and you're just talking wargaming, so you got different subjects and different things, but you get quite a following on that. And can you believe how many people actually come and listen to you talk about war games as your clip encounters? Did you ever think 2 years ago, hey, this is something I could literally do?
I mean, even that first time when I forget what the actual number was. I could probably look it up on YouTube, but I'm not going to. When there was 20 or 30 people watching, and I'm like, holy cow, man, I streamed something on I streamed some video game and it was nobody watching. I was like, there was the number of viewers at that given moment varied between 0 and 1, right? And people turned out for it, so I kept doing it, and it has grown, and a bit in fits and starts, but it is continually amazing to me that so many people show up on Monday night specifically. Strangely enough, not as many people show up on Tuesday night. I think there's a couple variables there. I mean, as much as I would like to blame Dan for that, and we will, but I did pick 8 p.m. on Monday on purpose because Monday is a night when people are generally going to be home. It's prime time, so it's either watch television or watch YouTube, right? And I ate that 8 to 10 slot, and I'm, no intention of not sticking with that. So it is weird in a lot of ways that people watch so religiously, right? And I see different people in and out all the time as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, you do a really good job on that.
Well, thanks.
Very entertaining. It's very
completely half-assed endeavor.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Everyone's brain works a different way.
Yep.
This is my personal feeling: is everyone's brain is wired differently, and when you can find that thing that you can talk about and do, people know. You can talk wargaming like nobody's business. You got years, you got designers, you got names of games that people have never even heard of.
And I think that's why they come along on a Monday, to sit by the fireside and take in the info, and ask questions and get an answer.
Whereas there to rile up Stigler and talk about decision games.
Oh, that's true.
Games.
Hey, if I feel like the conversation is just not happening, all I got to do is mention counter clipping or precision games, and I instantly have a revival of traffic in the chat.
I can hear him from over here. It wakes me up. I can hear him.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You're not just sitting there like a professor lecturing in front of a chalkboard, right? You make it entertaining. You keep people engaged. You keep it light and informative. It is entertainment. 2 good hours of entertainment. It's not just sitting there going to class.
Yeah,
I have to mention him. Look,
hold on. I gotta change my top 5 to be all decision stuff. Just
all solo stuff. Solo.
Yeah, solitaire products.
Somebody said his name.
Grief, that's freaky.
So I want to get in to see the Charles S. Roberts Award stuff and talk about all that. I know you are probably sick to death of talking about it and mentioning it.
Oh yeah.
But I'm sure there are probably people that don't know. Can you give us the Cliff Notes version? Since the last time we've met up with you, you are now the director. Is that correct?
Director of the Charles.
Director of this Charles S. Roberts Award show. So Cliff Note version. I know it's been asked a million times, but can you kind of give us a little bit of information about that?
The Charles S. Roberts Awards are given annually for excellence in conflict simulation games, and have been since I want to say 1974 or 1975. It's a little unclear because you're giving awards for the previous year, right? I am quite sick of talking about this, to be honest. I was hoping I could get away with being on History on the Tables podcast without talking about it, and now he asked me to. So there's a board, and there is a director, and now there are a couple of committees. Technically, there's a committee and a jury to determine who the nominees are going to be. We are in that process right now. I don't have any announcements to make, or I'd have already made them, or be talking about making them soon. But we are in that nominating collection of the nominees process at this time. Let me put it that way.
For 2022.
Or games released in 2022, which by itself, by the way, has actually kind of been challenging, as we've seen over the last several years. And we definitely I saw it from the inside last year, and again this year. Just determining the exact year of release can be problematic, especially when you cannot count on BGG as a reliable guide to release dates.
I was going to ask you, Ardy, that is it what it says on the box, or is it when you receive it in your hands?
It is when it is released to the consumer public.
So get it in your sweating.
Well, that's another thing. There was no definition of that previously. So we went through, and there's still a lot of work to be done. And it's frankly, there's some language in the new charter that is not as clear as we would like it to be. But just going in and saying, okay, we want to steer clear of conflicts of interest. Well, what does that mean? Okay, well, we have at least a start of a conflicts of interest policy now. We want to say, what determines whether a game is eligible or not. And we're always gonna have to make decisions, but at least now there's the beginning of a policy on that. Hey, David, how's it going? So a lot of what I've been trying to do is just to kind of set procedures in place so that I don't friggin' have to do this forever. I would love to be able to step down at some point, hand it off, and I have just the person in mind, by the way, to take over, and then they have procedures in place, and they can just kind of guide the process. Without necessarily having to manually, collate all this data and manually, figure out. It was all in one person, right? So effectively, because there was engagement internally, but there wasn't delegation. So it was not helpful. Now there's, without changing the personnel at all, that wasn't the issue.
Did it need structure and refinement? Is that what kind of thing?
It's both that and maybe there was structure before, but nobody knew it because there was no document that said, here's how we're doing this, right?
Okay.
And I will happily concede that the current completely new charter is not the desired end state of that, but it is at least a start. And I'm hoping that over the course of a couple of years, after which I would love to hand it off, that we can have procedures in place and guidelines, and we have then, when the procedures and guidelines are insufficient, which will come up, we will have a process for making those determinations, right?
Okay.
So
okay,
that's the thing. Yes, because I did an unboxing of Paths of Glory. I've got it because of the Stuka Joe CDG, and on the back of that, because it says this won an award for the best pre-World War II game. So
yep.
But now you're sort of making more and more categories, because that's a big category pre-World War II.
Well,
isn't it?
recognize that over the course of the history of the Charles S. Roberts Awards, the specifics of the categories, the number of categories, those have all fluctuated wildly, right? For in the 70s, for example, there would tend to be a best game, a best World War II, a best pre-World War II, and maybe a best post-World War II. But in recent years, there's been a wide array of categories. And I didn't want to get rid of that. As tempting as it was to say, okay, we're going to reduce this down to 6 categories because it'll be easier to manage. I didn't want to do that because that's kind of part of what sets the Charles S. Roberts Awards apart, is that it will recognize this excellent game on an obscure topic, at least, potentially, where it's just going to get lost in the shuffle of pre-World War II, right?
Yeah.
Or best overall game, right? And in particular, since the final vote is a popular vote, and it always has been. That's not new. Having a lot of different specific categories. So an interesting thing that I had to think about when we were putting this new charter together was the period categories are the only categories for which you can only be in one, right?
Right.
So you can't be both a World War II and a Ancients game. I mean, I guess you could theoretically, and there might be one or two examples in the history of wargaming like that. But now we have an actual statement that says it can't be. It's only one period category. It can be in all the other categories that aren't period categories, and that's fine.
Right.
So that means that determinations have to be made where things fit, and sometimes you got to talk about that, right? One thing that we had to figure out for 2021, the games released in 2021, was where does La Vendée fit, right? If you look at the definitions of the categories that were being used at the time, which I did not feel at liberty to change, like halfway through the process, it sure looked like it was a late gunpowder topic, but it wasn't because of the way the categories were defined. So now there's a committee that can make those decisions. Where does something fit? Where we had to we determined, for example, in our last meeting that this particular game released in 2023, or maybe it was 2021, I forget, but it was not eligible because of when it released. And we determined that another game that was mentioned was simply not relevant to the Charles S. Roberts Awards. So that there is a decision-making process in place, and it's not just some dude sitting in a basement making the decision by whatever he feels like that day. I think that's very valuable to have that process. So part of it,
you've got these boxes that you can put things into, and that's a good thing, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
So there's no sort of slippage.
Part of it was structure, but part of it was related to transparency as well. In terms of we wanted to give folks who were engaged with the awards a better visibility into how it's done, right? If nothing, we could regard that as a purely selfishly motivated if we want, because those folks are the kind of folks that get the committee invites, right?
Right.
So we set up a Facebook group. We set it up as a group, right? Not just an account where you could post stuff and then people could interact with you. But the group was set up kind of to give us a place. And there's a couple different places, of course, but that's kind of the primary place where people can give feedback. We would like to hear what's working, what's not working, what was dumb, what went off the way it was supposed to. So solicitation of that public feedback will lead us to greater engagement. We want the engagement because then we'll get more votes, which would have been a problem last year, right? Because it was all being done manually. So we had to sit there and comb through this like 100,000, I don't know what it was, but it was a many tens of thousands of cells in a CSV file that we had to sit there and pick through and figure out what the hell people were talking about. So we're not going to do that anymore. It's got to be much more straightforward now.
So So, for instance, like World War II games released in 2022, there's hundreds.
I don't know if there's hundreds, but there's dozens.
All right, yes, but how on earth then do you get these dozens? How do you pick these dozens into how many you have? Is that done by public vote, or is it because it must be done by sort of popularity? Because one game may be more popular, but there may be a cracking game by a small company that only a few people know about or play.
So this is a great question, because so there's kind of it's a two-step awards process, right? There is a group of nominees will be put on a ballot, and then the public votes on the ballot. Okay, and previously, at least the last couple of years, the nominating process was like an open ballot too, right? Which is in principle fine, but it wasn't working. So we found that because they were here's 5 open text fields, or whatever it was it was 3, but in each category, and you just put in whatever you want. So we had people putting in stuff that we had no idea what it was and couldn't find it. We had people putting in stuff that was released in 1981, actual thing that happened. We had a game designer who I won't name, but it wasn't anybody that's watching right now. That got all his people to put in his game that was released in like 1991. So I mean, obviously that's not happening. So there was a lot of, and it was all manual, right? We had this huge spreadsheet. We had to go in and look at every single ballot, and we don't want to. I have been asked not to release the number of ballots that we got, but it wasn't just a couple hundred. It was a lot. So, and those are the nominating ballots, right?
That was the other thing I was going to ask. Do you
Yeah.
actually, because not everybody likes filling in forms and everything. They may be ardent
That's
war
true.
gamers.
Well, and people will say, "Hey, I don't play or these early gunpowder games. I don't have anything to say about that. Can I not vote for those?" Yes, you could. So we made sure that capability was built in for those people who didn't feel comfortable putting their names on the game.
Just cause, just to fill in the form.
Yeah. So,
all right. Well, I mean, we didn't want to. I didn't want to hash on it too much. I know you've talked about it on your show. And
geez. Well, I try not to talk about it.
Talking about it for a long, long time, and I just thought it would be an interesting subject to at least kind of discuss a little bit, and kind of go over some stuff with you, and just.
I don't mind you asking.
At least saying, on my end, I'm super happy. At least they decided to get somebody that is knowledgeable and because I've heard your complaints, right? Because that was part of the issue why you got this.
Did hear,
because you had the big mouth and you did the complaining. Right?
I do have a big mouth.
Before you got the job, yes, and hopefully
so it's well, if you think you can do a better job, you do a better job. And
I am happy to make this a governing principle where we simply, when I step down or drop dead or whatever it is, hopefully not that long, we just identify the person who is complaining the most or loudest and give it to them. Here you go. Have a nice day.
Yes.
I'm completely comfortable with that because that's basically what happened in this case. It's like,
while you're there, you're going to put a bit of stick about, as they say.
Well, not really. That has not been necessary.
Oh, you're too kind.
But
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Go ahead. I'd rather not talk about this anymore. I also don't want to make this like a way to promote myself, right?
Well, it is about you, and we don't mind you promoting yourself and promoting the Charles S. Roberts.
I'm fine with promoting myself, but the Charles S. Roberts awards are bigger, should be bigger than me, right? So I'm not gonna. I've been trying not to piggyback on this, so I talk about this very little on my show, a little bit on Dan's show because Dan's involved too.
Things that are successful always have a front person that people know that's the driving force, and that's you.
They could have gotten a younger, better looking front person in this case.
There is nobody.
Well, it no matter about that. It matters about what we talked about before, about your knowledge and how you present it. If you're just a stick in the mud and you present these Charles S. Roberts awards like a stick in the mud, that's not why they chose you, because you're not a stick in the mud. Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, thanks. I will elect to take that as a compliment.
And you should get a T-shirt that says that. I'm not a stick in the mud.
Not a stick in the mud. I could do that.
Well, that's what I say. Put a bit about,
Let's move on. I've got a box.
I don't want to know about your box.
You still get stuff?
Good grief.
Right?
I believe that's a box.
Yeah, but he gets three.
I know where it came. I know where it came from.
It came from, but it's not what I thought it was either. It's because of Tony. Look at Tony. Right?
Oh, that's right. You went for the Great War Commander because I was playing
did
Combat
go
Commander.
For the Great War Commander.
You know who I knew where it was from?
The packaging.
The peanuts.
The peanuts.
The peanuts, yeah. So I got because Tony hooked up, and I know you were there because you had a great big discussion about how much you hated Combat Commander. Ardwulf, what is wrong with you? It is one of the greatest games ever.
A lot of people think that. You are not in a minority in saying that. I just don't like it. And that's okay.
That's okay.
I'm not allowed to
Okay.
I'm allowed to not
fine.
like stuff, and you're allowed to not like stuff, and we can have an adult conversation about that.
Actually, you can eat those peanuts, by the way.
Hold on.
I recommend against that, but you could theoretically do that.
I know why people like
They are not good eats, as we say.
No. But they're edible. So.
Ardwulf, why don't you like it? Because I haven't got it yet. I've ordered it, but they love it. And there's a solo fan base thing about. I'm thinking, okay, but why don't you like it? You might sway me.
So one of the things that people like about Combat Commander is that it does a very good job, which I'll be happy to concede, of sort of replicating the chaos of battle. Okay. This is, I think, a legitimate reason to praise the game. However, I think it may be that there's, like maybe Pacific's better tuned in this regard. I haven't played that. That's maybe Great War Commander is better tuned in this regard. But what I found, and I generally, if I have a negative reaction to a game, I'm at least almost always willing to try it at least one more time and maybe 2 more times before I said, nope, that's enough for me. And I played it 3 or 4 times and had a terrible experience each time. And in one example, in one of the times we played, so you have a hand of cards and that you play the cards to do things, right? Like shoot or move or whatever it is. I had no cards that I could actually use to affect my pieces on the board. Okay, so I will discard my action for my turn will be to discard cards. But you can't just discard your whole hand. You have a cap on how many you can discard. So I discarded of my 5 cards or whatever it was. I discarded the 3, which was the maximum. My opponent also had no cards that he could use. He discarded his maximum. I discarded my maximum. He discarded his maximum. I discarded my maximum. He discarded his maximum. I finally drew a card that I could use. So we sat there just discarding, both of us. And this was a very experienced Combat Commander player. Sat there just discarding everything because there was nothing. It wasn't that there were choices that we had to make to use what we had, right? It was there are no choices here. There is no decision space here. The only thing I can do is discard the maximum number of cards until I get something that I actually can use, even if that whatever it is not optional.
So you're saying the randomness of it, which is a good thing, the randomness of war, can actually play against you in a game like that if you don't get a good card.
I would not. Well, yes, but I don't think that broad a statement is my complaint. I think it's the actual design of the deck that makes it so it is possible, at least, and I'm also completely prepared to say this is maybe an outlying situation that doesn't come up very often. It is possible to have a genuinely useless hand. So
that happens all the time.
The randomness is not a problem. Because narrative emerges from the randomness. And I will say that a couple cool things happened too. I was playing the Russians one time, and this is in Combat Commander, not ASL. And I got the hero card. So this Russian squad or whatever got shot up, and a hero emerged, and Sergeant Ivan Popov or whatever it is, and Sergeant Popov, rah rah rah, he charges in and gets killed immediately. So we got good narrative out of the randomness. Right. But I again, I'm in a minority holding this opinion, but I didn't think it worked for me. I think it removes too much player agency. Let me rephrase that, because that's how I've always put it. I think there are points in the game where all player agency is absent, and I think that's bad. I have no decision to make here. And I think that's bad. That's what we're there to do, is make decisions and hopefully get something cool out of it.
I suppose if it happens once, you could use, like they're saying in the chat, that it's lack
there
of
is
and that. But if it happens 2 or 3 times, then you're going to get a bit bored with it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Nothing happens. Yeah.
It is. There's specific cards. They're called combat confusion cards that basically are dead cards. So if you get several of those in your hand, it can certainly ruin. Like, if you're not within range and you can't shoot, the only thing you can do is move. And if you don't have a move card, you can't do anything other than draw new cards.
But you gotta keep.
And I can understand Ardwulf's frustration.
Oh yeah.
But I am willing to accept that, because there are times that, like, I'm going to shoot Ardwulf, and he draws a card, and an event happens, and the event is break a machine gun that's closest to this random hex, which ends up being his machine gun, and it's like.
But see, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that happens in ASL all the time. If you break the machine gun, right? That something happening is at least cool.
Right.
When nothing is happening, then that's not cool.
Right.
And we went through, some time where literally nothing was happening except the discarding of cards.
Yep. Ruff, what do you got on the table behind you, buddy? What do you got? It looks like some.
All right, I'll let Ruff talk about this. I am going to go get rid of some caffeine. I'll be right back.
Oh, charming. Right. Okay. So, well, I've got Point Blank on. I put it up there because and David's turned up. It's just so I can drink some wine. It's been a week, so cheers.
Cheers to everybody.
Lock
Cheers.
and load. We got to say it right because Dave was
Yeah.
correct. We drank and it wasn't locked. Nobody said it. So.
And he's got the new Stuka Aces out, and I'm a bit peed off because I ordered that with the early bird thing, but I couldn't check out for some reason. I wasn't doing something. And Tony here, my mate Tony, helped me out when we were playing Monday Live. That I had to click on something else. I had to actually physically not do the drop down in the country. I had to get the proper drop down, find my country, clicked on because I had to put the VAT on. And then I could complete it. But of course, then I'd missed out on the early bird, so I got to pay an extra tenner. But anyway, we've got that sorted. So we've got point blank. I'm going to be using the solo.
Nice.
Thing. That
Nice.
looks really cool.
That.
It looks really cool. So I'll be using the solo Dubry. But I did get a couple of things in, not Wargaming. And this again is bloody Jester's fault.
Oh, nice.
That's supposed to be good.
It's great fun. This one is just nonsense. It's if you like nonsense, going after monsters and gods and whatever it is. And
that's a good expansion there, buddy. The Dreamland.
And,
the Science of Krakosis.
Yeah, I've got two more to go.
Two more.
And listening to people like Ardy and other people playing sort of Napoleonics and 7 Years War stuff and all that. And I was watching a video, forget the name of the channel, but it's Redcoats something or other, and he does histories about the British Redcoats. And he mentioned the book, and I got it. It's my first book for ages.
Redcoats.
And this is just sort of diaries and reminiscences from Redcoats from, I believe it's from the 7 Years War right up until the sort of end of the 19th century. It's supposed to be a good book. It's not, it's just like, I mean, it starts off here, which I thought was great. What are you laughing at?
Everyone's blaming me, Ruff. That's okay.
Shut it. I'm as quick as I can.
No, you take your time. Here's the problem, Ruff. When I met you, you had bookshelves with books and no games, and now you have bookshelves with games and no books.
I know.
So where are you going to find room for that book?
And the first proper page, it says he had not shaved this morning, and from the look of things, he shaved neither yesterday nor the day before. Ginger stubble sprouts from a suntanned face with red-rimmed blue eyes and a mouth whose teeth stand anyhow and like a line of newly raised militia. Bushy sideburns ending in a forward sweep. Just below the ear emerge from a battered black shako fronted with an oval brass plate and topped with a white over red pom-pom, which had seen better days, and many of them. His red coat, waist length in front with short skirts at the back, is closed by 10 pewter buttons, grouped in twos with a broad oblong of white worsted lace framing the buttonholes. And he'd worn this for like 6 months, and he stank of body odor and gunpowder and that. So this is the sort of book it is. It's not a sort of battle-y book. It's a book about the people.
Is this Prince Harry's book?
No, there's no there's no drugs in it. There's no drugs in it. So
well, you could tell that this is they don't write like that anymore.
That was one of his officers, obviously. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it. Sort of the personal sort of view of Redcoats right through. The first chapter is the Brown Bessie, and if you know your stuff, you'll know what a Brown Bessie is. So
Tony, you got? Did you get anything in this week?
Yeah,
Tony?
I've actually kind of really cut down on my purchasing period just for right now temporarily. But I did pick up the logbook for the Mag 23 Guadalcanal from Thomas.
Thomas, yeah, Thomas
Yes.
Van Heer.
So what's really neat is it's not just he's got the logbook in here, so there's plenty of blank pages, but he actually throws pictures from the time period in there, and then at the back he has. It's the research and logbook records of Major John L. Zimmerman from his time there on Guadalcanal, and he's got like 2 of them in here. So he's got the back probably I'd say 20 or 30 pages is all history from the guys that actually flew Mag 23, the Guadalcanal, his stuff. So I wanted to pick it up. Thomas is doing an awesome job with this stuff.
Thomas is bringing out these. I've got them both. And the first, I think Tony's going to be doing Mag 23.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be doing his first book, Tally Ho, which is the Battle of Britain. The Solitaire Air War games, Ardy, if you don't know. And they're different to the Mike Lambo ones. I mean, they're different. So you're not getting the same same
Have you
thing.
done an episode on book games there, Ardwulf?
No, I have not.
No, okay.
We've talked about it a decent amount on the show with Dan because Dan appears to be interested in those. But one of those kind of exploratory decisions I've had to make over the last couple of years is to cut back on buying solitaire games. Because I don't really get the time to play solitaire games. I'm lucky enough to be able to play actual, opposed games. So that does not invalidate the experience of the solitaire wargamer.
This is the subject.
Oh, so everyone, he's telling you, solitaire sucks and
play what you want.
No. This is
That's Stigler. You have to be confused.
I
with
understand
Stigler.
exactly what you're saying, but this is a good subject. I'll mention that after we've gone off of air that we can have possibly next when we got Steve Dixon on.
April 25th.
Maybe have that as a subject as well. I'll talk about it later. I watched a video of somebody talking about this, that somebody was dissing solitaire games, but people play solitaire games for many different reasons, not because they're lonely things. Ardy's lucky enough to have a group of people to play with, so he doesn't need solitaire games.
Which doesn't mean that I find no solitaire games appealing, right? Sometimes the game's appealing, and whether it's a solitaire game or not is kind of incidental, right?
Yeah.
And a bunch of, I don't know how much you can see, not much of it. A bunch of the stuff that remains on the shelf, and I did dump a few, is stuff specifically like that. And I am not swearing off solitaire games or anything like that, but it's a time and bandwidth thing for me. I don't have the time to do half the stuff I want to do anyway.
And on the other side of the coin, a lot of people don't have time to play with other people, so they do.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. That's a great subject for one of our chats, maybe.
Blue Tweezer says he just ran his first Mag 23 campaign, ended up with every plane either crashed on takeoff, crashed on landing, or shot.
Tweez, that's because you're rubbish. Rubbish. You haven't got his gravity dice.
I think book games are just like for me, they're super interesting. You can pick them up. They're pretty reasonably priced. There's a lot of content in them, and they're usually smaller development teams and people. And so I'm trying to help out the small guys. Like
Thomas is on his own, isn't he? I mean, there's a lot of meat in them games.
Yeah.
A little bit of crunch.
A lot of passion and a lot of
passion. Yeah.
He's not making a lot of money on these things. He's doing it just because he loves to do it. What have we heard of money, right? Ardwulf, have you got anything new recently?
Well, let me, I guess, say that I do think the book game space is interesting because it's something that we haven't seen much of in the history of wargaming, where a lot of hex and counter territory has been pretty thoroughly mapped, and I think there's a lot of interesting places you could go with the book game.
Mm-hmm. But now there's an explosion, isn't there? It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if it's an explosion, but it's certainly a little bit of an out of control grass fire.
All right. All right. What you see, our country is much smaller. An explosion over here is a grass fire over there. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
So I was after I did the SPI show. The folks at Strategy Page reached out to me and said, "Hey, just FYI, there's some old issues of S&T that have some articles on them on the history of wargaming." So I've been picking those up. There's like 3 old issues, 2 of which were from the SPI days, and the third was actually, I think, under 3W, but it was when Dunnigan was back in charge of S&T as the editor. So that's an interesting period right there. So, at least that first article in S&T 33 is like really in depth, man. It talks a lot about, Kriegspiels and the precursors to Kriegspiels and the successors to Kriegspiels, and the then professional side of wargaming, and fairly interesting stuff. Another one of those articles has actually a list of milestones, which I'll probably end up doing a show about, of first game with hexes, first games with zones of control, first game with numbered
Ooh,
hexes, all that kind of
that's a
stuff.
great idea. That
So
is awesome.
yeah, and I kind of did that with the Transformative War Games show, but that was more focused on mechanical innovations rather than physical innovations. A lot of those physical innovations were innovations by Redmond Simonson, which I think won't surprise anybody when somebody actually says that out loud. But like every time you move the turn record track up, Redmond Simonson, basic stuff that we would consider transparently. Oh, surely they had these in, from the very beginning. No, Redmond Simonson came up with a lot of that stuff.
Wow. That is so interesting. Hey, guys, in the chat, the subject for today's show is our top 5 all-time favorite series, War Games series. So just think about it. We're not doing it yet. If you haven't saw the post yet, you can start building. If you can start building your top 5 War Games series, we're going to be covering that here in a little bit. So I just wanted to let you guys know so you can start working on that.
Well, that's confused me. That's confused me because in the title to this video, it's got Taking War Games Best Series. I'm thinking, what's that about? What's he talking about? You may need to put an L in there.
Are we talking about like war game burglary or what?
Yeah, that's what I think. What we talk, do I nick them from somebody or go down to Second Chance Games?
When I got to do everything, when I got to do freaking everything, when you contribute to the show once, then you let me know. Dan Jr. I'm calling you Dan Jr. from now
on. Put an L there.
You show up at the last minute. You don't do anything. I don't even want to keep you around.
See what I have to put up with. God, man of my caliber.
Such patience you guys have.
Ardwulf, so seriously.
I teach high schoolers. Do you think he's a problem?
He may have had different learning capabilities than the rest of his classmates.
Yeah, he's a plus. He's fine.
I'm sure.
Special needs.
I'm absolutely sure. I was in the slow kid class.
He is one of our special friends.
Within the last year, you played a lot of different games, right? So, what game have you played within the last year that's not, kind of you think is under the radar and more people should check out this game? Like what game out there would you recommend to people that are like, I'm looking for a gem in the rough? What would you recommend?
Well, if you say rough, then we're talking about something from Decision, right?
So that's an expression. What game do you think needs more? You think is really good, and a lot of people just don't talk about it. And
does it have to be like a recently released, or
relatively recently released within the last year or two?
I would like. See, I wasn't prepared for this question.
You got to be prepared. I mean, come on now. We had Thomas on, and he would answer these questions like that.
I would like to see the Library of Napoleonic Battles get more attention. That's the OSG Napoleonic semi-grand tactical series. The descendant of Napoleon's last battles. And I think it has actually over the last couple of years gotten a little more attention than it had gotten previously.
Is that because it's quite a crunchy series?
It's not, though. It's really quite easy. It's because the only way to get the stuff is to order them from OSG. It's not available.
You can't go retail on it.
Yeah, I can go to the Guard Tower and in Columbus and get GMT or Compass or the occasional DVG or whatever. I can't do that with OSG. They don't work through the distribution chain at all. The MMP does, but they do a bad job of it. There's no retail stores anywhere in Ohio that I'm aware of. Happy to be corrected on this. That gets new product in for Multiman Publishing. So, but at least in the case of Multiman, it's like a lot of their sales are tied to specific series, and those people are just used to ordering it from them, right? So that's I think less true of Library of Napoleonic Battles and OSG's material in particular, of which almost all of it is Library of Napoleonic Battles.
Okay.
I have one of their introductory games that I've been looking at.
Have you tried it, Tony?
No, I was looking at it. Matter of fact, it's surprising you say that because I have the,
You're going to find that it's not complicated.
Yeah, it's so. I was going to ask you that. So you have played Labatai. Have you played Labatai?
Not yet. About to play it in about 4 weeks.
The other thing
which rule set are you using?
We are using Marie Louise, but another table is using Premier.
Okay, and there's another one called Regs. So,
that's one of the problems, isn't it? I mean, and it's the many rule sets, and Tweez says Second Chance over here has it, but it's eye-wateringly expensive.
Yeah. So there's 4 different rule sets for Labatai available at the moment. Okay. There's Marie Louise. So let's start with the Regs. Okay. So the Regs is like the complicated, full features, everything's in their version. Okay. The Marie Louise is a stripped down version of the Regs, intended to be more accessible. Premier is a completely parallel thing. That's the Marshall Enterprises rule set. And it, unlike the Regs and Marie Louise, does not use a chit pull mechanic. And then there's the 5th edition, which I have not at all looked at. And that is an edition that kind of takes from a number of different rule sets over the lifespan of Labatai, which recognizes it's the oldest series in war games that is currently still alive. There's only one series in war games that is older. And that's the version that's currently available in some of the current products from Clash of Arms. But other products like Labatai de la Moscova has Marie Louise rules in it, I believe.
Is that part of the reason why it's not very successful or not more played? Because people I would get confused, think, okay, there's 4 or 5 different rule sets. Do you think
to some extent, but there's a number of other factors that I think are equally important. Namely that again, they are hard to obtain. There's no presence in retail stores, for example. They are generally fairly expensive. They are generally fairly large. Now, there's exceptions to all of those things, right? There's been a couple of quite small Labatai games, and there's actually some print and play Labatai games that are like on the website that you can just download and play it, right? So I think all those factors together make it less approachable from the outside. But looking at Marie Louise, it's not that. I mean, looking at it, it's not that complicated. Nor is Premier particularly.
That's.
I mean, bear in mind, that's in the eye of the beholder, right? Somebody whose idea of moderate complexity game is Carcassonne is going to have a different scale to place that from than I do.
Yeah.
And I find, and maybe you have the same feeling from just from talking with you. I kind of think you do. Is my feeling is a lot of this complexity stuff really isn't as complex when you get in and look at the game. But there's just a mindset that people get. Oh, that's a really complicated game because that's what they've heard or that's what the rating is. And then when you play it, I know me and Tony, we were comparing notes on what was it, Tony? We played about a month ago, and we were both like, this game is not complex. And do you remember what that was, Tony?
Oh,
was that the one you played completely incorrectly?
No,
it wasn't Banish the Snakes.
That one.
This isn't hard.
No. I generally find the more I look at a game, the less complex I feel it is compared to what people say.
I think Battles of Great History was the only thing I could think of that we were talking about.
What did we do, Tony? Come on, think. Use your brain for once.
Recognize that complexity is a sort of a multi-axis, a multi-dimensional space, right?
Yes. Yes.
One of those dimensions is, how many rules are there, right? And that's a factor in your kind of overall picture of how complicated the game is. How hard is it to learn is another dimension, which may or may not reflect the number of rules, right? Some games have rule books that are bad. Some books have, like Combat Commander has a rule book that is really good. That makes it seem easy to learn it, right? Do you personally, what's your situation with learning it? Are you trying to learn it from the book? Are you watching videos? Do you have a tutor to teach you the game? I mean, so all these things kind of wrap themselves up into this one number that we put on the back of the box that says complexity 1 to 9, right? So we played Goss at Winterfest a couple of weeks ago, and that's, that is at the very high end of the complexity scale. Let me put it that way. But once you start playing it, it's really not that hard. The original rule book was like actual garbage. It's better now, but it's still pretty far from the best rule book I've ever seen. It's better. You can figure it out from this rule book now, as opposed to I have no idea how to play this after having read this rule book 3 times and put it back in the box, stick it on the shelf, and maybe sell it 3 years later, which is the situation a lot of people found themselves in.
But that's another dimension, isn't it? How many rule books you've read? I mean, that's a factor. When I started, and I like if I read Goss when I started, I'd go, "What this? What?"
That can work both ways, though, too. You can be a very experienced wargamer with traditional mechanics, and then you encounter a game system that's a total, it's not like it's not a war game, but uses completely different underlying logic. BCS.
I was just gonna say BCS
is one of these. It's weird at first, right? So in a sense, that experience with other war games can benefit you in learning new war games, or it can stand in your way if the war game you're trying to learn uses a lot of unconventional stuff.
That BCS, I love that BCS. It's so different.
Try that.
It is so different. And now that Ericore, sorry, there's no T because it's not court, it's French.
We're in Ohio. We're allowed to pronounce that however we want.
I can't stick the thing up. I haven't got that thing, but here we are. We're drinking a Rioja today, so there we go. You see, it's 9 o'clock over here. It's not 5 o'clock out.
Yeah. Oh, we drink at noon, so you could push almost to 11 depending on the day.
Can't have drink all day if you don't drink all day.
Right. It is 5 o'clock our time over here, which means it's Rough Remembers time. If you'd bear with us a few minutes as Ruff goes through the history from today.
Oh, this will be more than a few minutes.
I've got a big a day, huh?
Oh, yeah, I've gone a bit bonkers. What happened on this day, 25th of March? Excuse me. 1708. A French fleet anchors near Fife Ness in Scotland as part of the planned French invasion of Britain. This planned French invasion in 1708, also known as the Enterprise de Cosse, excuse my pronunciation, Stig, took place during the War of the Spanish Succession. The French planned to land 5,000 to 6,000 soldiers in northeast Scotland to support a rising by local Jacobites that would restore James Francis Edward Stuart to the throne of Great Britain.
The Young Pretender.
The Young Pretender, yes. Despite French commander Claude de Forbin warning the chances of invading the Royal Navy long enough to land his troops were extremely limited, his fleet of small privateers reached Scotland in March 1708. As he had forecast, he was unable to disembark the troops and returned home, narrowly escaping a pursuing British naval force. Go get them. Such attempts reflected a fundamental and continuing divergence of objectives. While the Stuarts wanted to regain their throne, for the French, they were a simple and low-cost way to absorb British resources. Nothing changes. Much of the Royal Navy was occupied chasing de Forbin, and troops were diverted from Ireland and southern England. That made it successful for France, but a failure for the Jacobites. James, you see what they're doing, the French. They're sneaky. James II's Protestant elder daughter, the prince's half-sister, Mary II, and her husband, the prince's cousin, keep it in the family, William III, became co-monarchs. William and Mary. The Bill of Rights, 1689, and the Act of Settlement, 1701, excluded Catholics, such as James, from the English and British thrones. And the Act of Settlement, the Bill of Rights is still active today in our Constitution. Anyway, that's that. 1802, the Treaty of Amiens is signed as a definitive treaty of peace between France and the United Kingdom. These are all sort of early things. There's not much going on in the Second and First World War today. This treaty temporarily ended hostilities between France and the United Kingdom at the end of the War of the Second Coalition, which had waged war against revolutionary France since 1798. It marked the end of the French Revolutionary Wars. After a short peace, it set the stage for the Napoleonic Wars. Britain gave up most of its recent conquests, and France was to evacuate Naples and Egypt. Britain retained Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka, and Trinidad. It was signed in the city of Amiens on the 25th, today, 1802, by Joseph Bonaparte and Marquess Cornwallis as a definitive treaty of peace.
Same Cornwallis.
Huh?
Same Cornwallis.
Cornwallis.
That's Lord Cornwallis from Yorktown. Same guy.
At this time, yes, as you'll see in a minute, yes, he was the Marquess of Cornwallis when he signed this. Joseph Bonaparte was the older brother, of course, of Napoleon Bonaparte, and during the Napoleonic Wars, the latter made him King of Naples, and then later the King of Spain. Cornwallis is best remembered as the leading British general one of the leading British generals in the American War of Independence. His surrender in 1781 to a combined American and French force at the siege of Yorktown ended significant hostilities in North America. This treaty, though, only lasted 1 year.
Of course, it was French in England. What do you expect?
What do you expect when the British renege on all their promises?
No. It was the Frenchie. And it was the only period of general peace in Europe between 1793 and 1814. So there we go. Here we go. 1865. We're now in the American Civil War. In Virginia, Confederate forces temporarily capture Fort Stedman from the Union. The Battle of Fort Stedman, also known as the Battle of Hares Hill, was fought during the final weeks of the American Civil War. The Union Army fortification in the siege lines around Petersburg, Virginia, was attacked in a pre-dawn Confederate assault by troops led by Major General John B. Gordon. The attack was the last serious attempt by Confederate troops to break the siege of Petersburg. After an initial success, Gordon's men were driven back by Union troops of the 9th Corps, commanded by Major General John G. Park. I sound like, what's the Italian professor's name when he does his stuff
Riccardo
on
Massini?
Yeah, I said.
Yes.
Right, last one. 2007. Congress designates today, I don't know if you know this, as National Medal of Honor Day. Did you know that,
Oh,
Guy?
there you go. Didn't know that.
The day is significant it is the day, they picked this day because that was when the first Medal of Honor was presented in 1863. And this was presented to Army Private Jacob Parrott. And he was born on the July 17th, 1843 in Fairfield County, Ohio. He enlisted in the Army as part of Company K, 33rd Ohio Voluntary Infantry during the Civil War, of course. In April 1862, Parrott and nearly 24 other volunteers were given orders to go deep into enemy territory and destroy bridges and railroad tracks between Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Atlanta. Once they reached the Atlanta area, the Union soldiers hopped on a train heading north. When the train stopped at Big Shanty, Georgia, the passengers and crew got off for breakfast. But the raiders stayed on and began their covert mission by uncoupling the engine, fuel car, and 3 boxcars and steaming out of the station.
They stole the train.
I know.
There's a game about
They
this.
stole the train, yeah. The raiders gained a little bit of distance and were able to damage a few bridges, but it wasn't long before the Confederate soldiers got the ump and got a hold of another train. They were hot on their trail. This is something, you can just imagine it, can't you? The Union soldiers uncoupled more of the stolen cars to slow their pursuers, but the move was to little effect. Eventually, the train ran out of fuel near the Georgia-Tennessee border, and all of the Union soldiers tried to get away on foot. They were all captured, including Parrott. Parrott was eventually returned to the Union in a prisoner exchange in March 1863. For his part in the raid, he was awarded the very first Medal of Honor that same month, with 5 of his comrades receiving the same distinction shortly thereafter. So that's the story of the very first Medal of Honor recipient this day on March.
Wow. And Ardwulf, you said there's a game on this?
Stuff there.
Somebody's working on a game about it. It's coming from Compass.
Yeah, I know.
Probably it's got to be David Thompson.
It's David
he always
Thompson.
pulls those
Yeah.
weird-
It's not David Thompson. This is a Thompson-esque topic, however, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can just see them chasing each other down the railroad.
Yes.
Can't you? Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Tony, you have anything or no?
No, not today, actually.
Okay, that's fine.
The pre-orders are a
Ruff, are
little
you doing the
late
game
today.
for the day, or am I doing the game for the
Go on.
day?
I can pick a really hard one that you're not going to get.
Well, then that's not going to do it. We want to get to our other topic sometime today. So
Yeah, not going to get this one. I'll tell you what it is. I'll show you what it is. This is the one I picked. I'm right rotter. It's from the Quinto Games.
Oh, yeah.
Marine.
No, that wouldn't have worked at all.
2002.
Oh my God! So you're
No,
terrible
you
at this
wouldn't
too. All right, so I got my game. All right,
Go
well,
then.
ask me a question about it. Yes or
Okay.
no?
What?
Ask
We're
me a
doing-
question, and you're trying to
Question.
narrow down what.
Oh,
game
I'm
picking.
trying to guess your game.
Yeah.
20
got it.
questions, yes or no?
So they're yes or no topic. Okay. Post before or after 1900?
That's not a yes or no
He's got
question.
the idea. He's got the idea.
Your
Is
question
it
is
before 1900?
no.
Is it before?
Well,
No, you only get one, then it goes
Oh,
around.
okay. And it goes
Yeah.
around. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now it goes to Tony.
Is it before 1950?
Is it before 1950? Yes.
Okay. So between 1900 and 1950.
Yes, and I have to do like layups. So this is like very simple game because like Normandy 44 was one of them.
Okay, Rob.
In fact, the one they didn't get was the hardest game. It was Tony's favorite game ever, and they didn't get it.
He's not going to let us forget this, along with Rommel.
I'm sorry,
not
Ruff.
taking
Go ahead.
place. So 1900 and 1950.
Yep.
So Second World War, yeah?
Or First World War. Could be First World War.
Have you got many First World War? You own this game, yes? Oh, he's not going to say anything. I'll try to trick him there. Is this a Second World War land-based Europe theatre of operations game?
Well, that's a lot that you put into one question.
Well, you
but
can say yes
it
or no,
is.
can't you? Yes or no?
Yes, it is. Fortunately for you, you know me too well. Yes, you bastard.
Okay, so Gary, back to you.
You see how, Gary, this is, what the sort of cheapness of this channel is, really.
Is the East Front in the game?
Is the East Front like Russians and stuff? No.
The East Front was the one with the Russians. Yes.
Is that the one with the Russians? That's not the North
No.
Africa, is it? No.
No, it was not.
Okay, so it's a Western Front. Was it post D-Day
Oh
invasion?
God, he's gonna ask me dates now, isn't he? What?
Was it post D-Day invasion?
June 44th.
Yes,
see?
it was post D-Day. Yes.
Okay. Back up to you, Ruff.
I think we'll have to start getting game companies now, won't we?
Yeah, we got it. We got it nailed down to West Front after D-Day.
So it's Battle of the Bloody Bulge game. Is that what you're saying?
It could be Normandy too. Yeah, go with the 800-pound gorilla. That'll knock out some.
800-pound gorilla? You mean GMT?
Yes.
Is it a GMT game, Jester?
Surprise, surprise! It is not a GMT game.
See how good we are at this, Ardy.
That's fair enough. That
You
now
want to
does
know why
narrow
they
it
get
down.
20 questions, but then everyone in the chat says it's going to take them between 30 to 40. This is
I
why.
see that.
They're never very kind.
So is it? I know the answer to Is it Ardennes? No, that wouldn't be it. Is it Ardennes?
Is it Ardennes? No.
Okay.
Ah,
I mean the game Ardennes from the game.
Correct. No,
Okay.
it's not
Okay.
the game Ardennes. No.
but he's also told us it's not the Battle of the Bulge, then, isn't he?
That's true.
Mm,
That's true. What about the paratroopy lots of things? Monty and
Market Garden.
yeah, might be. I don't know.
Does it have? Does it have to do with Market Garden?
Yes, it does, as a matter of fact.
It's a try the other 3-letter company. I think I have an idea.
It's that big one, isn't it? By MMP. Is it an MMP game?
Is that your question?
Is it an MMP game? Of course it
Is
is.
that your question? Because you just randomly chat over there. Yes, it's an
MMP
MMP
question
game.
mark.
Okay.
There's at least 4 MMP games on that topic.
I'm thinking 2. It's 1 of 2.
I'm thinking what he's got.
Yep. 1
I'm
of 2.
thinking it's Monty's Gamble.
It is not Monty's
He
game.
hasn't got that. No.
The Devil's Cauldron.
It is not the Devil's Cauldron.
Oh, what's the other
It's
one?
The other one. The other GTS one. It's Green Box.
Where Eagles Dare.
Yes.
Yeah, where Eagles there?
Is it for Eagles Dare? Yes, it is for Eagles Dare. Ladies and gentlemen, it didn't take him an hour and a half today.
No, only
Holy
5
crap.
questions. We did really well.
That is really good. That is pretty good. You got it in like 12 questions. That's pretty
So,
good.
Not bad.
Ardwulf, I got a question for you. And you've talked about going to school at Ohio State. So you went to Ohio State, correct? For
Mhm.
school. What was your degree in?
History.
Okay. I was just kind of
There
curious.
you go.
Well,
And you know Tony's a history teacher, right?
I did know that, yes.
Okay.
I'm actually headed back for a master's in teaching in history.
Oh, there you go.
So it's also a pay bump. So there's some benefits to it. But yeah.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I was wondering if it was in history or not. So
Yep. Actually, the Ohio State History Department is quite good. So,
Mhm.
depending on exactly what history you want to learn.
I was
but-
going to say, what sort of era? Because when you do a degree, you have to sort of, it's not everything, is it? You have to narrow
So for a
down.
bachelor's degree, you're expected to cover a number of different things, right? And you're inside history. So you have to have at least one non-Europe and North America that's like pre-industrial, at least one non-Europe or America that's post-industrial, at least one
Right.
North America or Europe
Yeah.
that's pre-industrial, at least one, so I had to cover all that stuff. And interestingly, some of those like oddball classes were real rewarding, right? History of modern China was a very rewarding class. for
Mm.
example.
that'd be interesting. Yeah.
So
That's where you get your love of those sort of war games that there aren't many of. So when there are, you grab them. Is that right?
that's actually the genesis of my interest in that particular, the topic of the Second Sino-Japanese War specifically, of which there's not a lot of games about.
Yeah. I remember one of your videos bemoaning that fact.
Yeah, it is too bad. I mean, if you look at if you go all the way down to the tactical level, there's a little more, but there's really not much coverage of it. But part of that is the research, right? There's a lot of the sources on that are in Chinese or Japanese, and we're Americans. We don't learn those languages.
Yeah.
So-
And also they're keeping that info probably to themselves, especially.
The Chinese are happy to talk about how terrible the Japanese treated them during that period.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even kidding, but they're generally they're talking about that in Chinese. So
Yeah.
and I don't speak
you're right.
Chinese. We spent like 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of that class, learning how to read the names, not how to speak Chinese or even pronounce the names, but just how to tell what we were reading
Yeah.
Right.
because of the multiple different transliterations
Yeah.
that have been used
The
for
word
Chinese.
foreign means anything. It's Chinese and Japanese. It's so different. Yeah.
Oh, the languages are completely different. Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that they're if you didn't look at the writing, because the Japanese borrowed the kanji from the Chinese.
Yes.
You wouldn't know that they were related at all. They're totally different
But even from
structurally,
a
grammar.
European or Western American, they are so foreign. They are so different. Yeah.
Even to each other, they're not similar though.
Mhm.
They're less similar between Chinese and Japanese than say English is to Russian, for example. And haven't had a crack at Russian. They're not that similar.
No, they're not. That's why I'm going. Yeah, crikey.
No, not at all. Question in the chat was Alistair was wondering, do you work in IT, Gary?
Technically, yes, but not
Okay.
really. I'm writing technical right. Basically, what I do is right now I work in I write technical documentation. So I'm kind of in IT, and officially I'm in IT, but I don't feel like I'm in IT. But I worked in IT for like 15 years.
Well, writing technical documents, that makes sense from a history degree. Like, and I'm not joking either.
Well, I was joking when I said, yes, I got a degree in history. That's why I work in IT.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So, did your interest in history spur your interest in war games, or did your interest in war games spur your interest in history?
both.
Both.
Or I've been interested in history the whole time, right? Like since I was a kid, right? I would get the whatever childish World War II books they had available in the library at the Catholic school. And it wasn't until somewhat later, at least, that I even became aware that there was such a thing as war games. So, in a general sense, I was interested in history, since I was not toddler, but like 7. But after that, right, into adulthood, I do find that games drive my willingness to engage in additional facets of history that I was not previously interested in. So Civil War, for example, if it wasn't for the people, I wouldn't be into Civil War at all.
Right.
And that's
still.
Now we ask this question to all our guests and people come on the show because I just find it interesting. Now, I'm a crossover gamer. Well, that's what I call myself because I play war games, I play board games, I play sports games, I play multiple different kinds.
Well, you have to because otherwise you wouldn't get 72 videos out a week.
No,
that's true. That's true.
It's run out of war games.
And I tell you what, you wouldn't get enough videos that Dan doesn't even show our war room on it because you've got 27 games.
Right.
Hey, I can't help it. I'm a busy guy. I cannot help I'm a busy guy. I get more than one video out a week, you
You're not advertising it.
But they're exceptionally high quality videos when they do.
They are. But what Stigler says is true. I mean,
what I'm saying is I play multiple different kinds of games. I don't just focus on war games. When I look at your collection there, sir, you have a great collection of war games. Do you play other games besides war games, or do you 95% play in war games?
No, I'm about 95% war games.
Yeah, okay. That's what I kind of figured. Yeah.
That's more of a time thing than anything else, though. I just don't have the time to do other stuff. I'd have to cut something out if I was to start playing something else. I mean, every once in a while I'll do an RPG thing. Every once in a while I'll play a Euro. But I don't have the time to do all the stuff I want to do. So I had to make a decision as to what I was going to focus on, and that turned out to be war games and a real narrow selection of RPGs.
All right. I'm going to have Tony and Dean ask you a question so I can fill up my glass. When I come back, we're going to get into our top 5 series games of all time.
I was wondering when we were going to get to that.
Yeah.
It's
like your channel.
I prepared everything.
But I want to see if Tony and Dean can actually come up with a subject while I go get something to drink, or if it's going to be silent for 5 minutes.
We're going to talk about what a punk you are for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. And also about banana sandwiches and other food related.
I mean, that's fine. We've been known to do that on my show.
Yeah.
Talk about random
But what I was saying about the history thing, I've always been a World War II nut since I was a kid, and that was down to my father.
Me too.
But this bloody hobby is why I now might be getting into Napoleonic 7 Years War and all this, the First and Second Boer War. And that's why I bought this book. It's driving me mad, Ardy. I don't know what to do. It's a disease.
I think it was a growing interest in Napoleonics that brought me back into wargaming around 2010. That sounds approximately correct. I just started picking up books on Napoleonic specifically. I mean, I had kind of a lot, but it was all in ebook format because you could find Napoleonic ebooks a lot of times for like $1.99. So I had a lot, but including like some of this like central works of Napoleonic history, like the Chandler's campaigns of Napoleon, for example.
That's what I'm frightened of.
But I'm like, well, that's a great starting place, actually. Is Chandler's campaigns of Napoleon. It's some people think it's dry, but man, I'll tell you, I've read some drier stuff than that. I mean, I got a history degree. I've read some dry fucking stuff. So So I didn't find it hard to get through particularly, but it is long, right? There's a lot there, but you don't have to necessarily sit down and read the whole thing cover to cover it like you would read a novel. You decide, hey, I want to read about Waterloo. So you go to that chapter and read about,
book.
you know,
It's a dip-in book. Yeah,
you can absolutely treat. I mean, I read it cover to cover, but you can absolutely treat it that way.
And that's the problem I've got now. I've got this book, and I've got not hundreds. I've got maybe, I must have a couple of 300 books on the World War II. Which
I've got like 40.
Yeah, and it's just some of my father's books and really obscure sort of specialist books. But now, I'm thinking, oh, I've got that. Oh God, I need a Napoleonic book now, and I need one on the Boer War, or the First and Second Boer War, and I need this. And this is what's frightening me. This thing is, I can't keep in my little safeness. I have to. It's expanding tone. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
There's no shortage of rabbit holes in this hobby. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Exactly.
And yes, that's right. And nobody will help me out. They just go, sorry, that's what it's like.
I will resist. I will resist getting into a particular historical topic as long as I can until like a game is coming that's so appealing that I can't say no to it.
Right.
So,
but that's what happened.
All right, we're running out of time. You guys got to stop babbling so we can get this actually done. Good Lord, a bunch of girls sitting around gabbering. We are going to be talking about our top 10 most favorite game
I thought it was
systems.
5.
Top 5. Yes, top 5.
Is it 5?
Yes, top 5.
Okay.
Yeah. I got them listed 1 to 5.
So is it game system or game series? Because those are 2 different top 5s.
Yes.
Series.
Okay.
Yes. Ardwulf, why don't you lead us off?
Am I doing all of them or just number 5?
Just your number 5.
Europa.
Yeah, I thought you'd say that.
Yeah. It's and if you ask me, I'm going to caveat this several times. If you ask me next week, I'll say something different, right?
Oh yeah,
but
totally, yeah.
The fact is, over the last say 2 years, we've played I think 3 Europa games, and it has been a uniquely rewarding yet frustrating experience each time, and sometimes filled with the comedy that comes along with playing Europa. It provides. There are a million bad things I could say about that game system, about the mechanical this and mechanism that and all that stuff. But the fact is that it provides a play experience that you just generally don't get outside of it. Right? It's a unique play experience. And I have played in every case with my gaming buddies, right? So it has been a positive play experience, even if we said, what? That's a ridiculous rule. Why is there a separate rule for this one American Louisiana National Guard unit that was broken up to serve as military police in French-speaking North Africa? Why does that need its own rule at a game at 16 miles to the hex? I am not making that up. And it's like, I started when we're blah, 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 this works this way, and I'm like, you get +2 garrison value for keep this unit in Casablanca or whatever, and I'm like, man, that is the most Europa rule I have heard in quite a while.
Is that a bit like the pasta rule from the North Africa?
Well, it seems obvious that the pasta rule was actually intended satirically, even if I don't necessarily buy Richard Berg's argument that the whole game was. But no, this is a serious effort to simulate everything down to the beans and bullets.
Yeah.
All right, Ruff, what about your number 5?
Well, I've not put them in any order because they're all good. But
so they're all number 2.5. Then is what
they're all number 1. No, they're all number. Well,
choose your least favorite of the group that you see in front of you and give us your number 5.
That's why they're my top 5. If you said pick your top 50, then I could have a bottom one, couldn't I?
It's like choosing between your children.
It is.
Oh, that's easy.
Oh, crikey. You get out of here. Satan behind me. Right. Oh.
Number 5.
Panzer.
Why? Would you like to give us some information?
I ordered these from P500, expecting them to dribble in and me to learn them in a sort of relaxed sort of way. But no, GMT and the Wisdom decided to send out all 4 expansions to me, and much glee was gleaned from these two when that happened. I played the first one, the base game, the core game, and what an experience! I think what pleased me, everybody's saying it's quite a complex game. The base game is not very complex. Don't bother with it too much. Just go and plop in some of the advanced rules. And the good thing about this series is you can plop in advanced rules as you want. Leave this one in, take this one out, not use this. And I used as many as I could, and I had a cracking time. And what I was pleased about is they say it's quite a crunchy game, but I understood it. And yes, I made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes when they video playthroughs. But yeah, it's a great series. And I've played a few bits off camera. I'm looking forward to North Africa. That's a hefty game coming in. But I'm really pleased. It's one of those games where you say it's supposed to be complex. And like you said, for the Napoleonic series, it's not that complex once you enjoy it. If you're enjoying it, then it's not complex. So,
all right. Yeah. Thank you, Ruff. Appreciate that fine introduction to your series list. Let's just show a few things that we got for James. Good list there. Number 5 for Wing Leader. We got Next War Series. We have Flying Colors. And we'll get to the rest of those in a minute. Tony, you're number 5.
My number 5, this was actually harder than I thought it was going to be because I started writing down all the series that I play, and I'm like, holy crap, what am I going to pick?
You're playing more than me, Tone, I tell you.
Well, honorable mentions, OCS, BCS, the 40X system, and Next War. Those are my honorable mentions.
I forgot to mention mine, so I'll do that next time. Yeah.
But number 5 was Panzer Grenadier. After playing it with Ruff, I love it. It's different tactically than.
Look at his face. Look, I know.
Yeah, it's different tactically than what you're used to. It's a move, maneuver, and then boom, you got to hit them all at once. So yeah, I liked it. That's my number 5.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yes.
And that's what you should have said instead of putting that horrible face, Gary.
No, that was involuntary.
Yeah, that was involuntary. Okay, Jester, what's your number 5?
My number 5, and maybe Ardwulf will give me the official title, okay? But I don't know what the official title is. I call it the Target for Today series because there's the Target for Today, Target for Tonight, B-29, the new one that just came out, Skyhawk, all uses the same kind of system.
You mean the Steve Dixon series, if you like?
Yes. Yeah, kind of designed by Steve Dixon, all do the same kind of looking up and going from place to place as you travel to try and drop your bombs or whatever. Does it even have like a official?
Not to my knowledge.
No.
Okay.
No, but it's a similar sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's a narrative-driven solitaire game.
I think you can actually combine B-29 at least with Target for Today and Target for Tonight. Why you would need to, I don't know, but you could, in principle, do so.
But it's a bit like Greg's games, the Hunters and all that. They're not technically a series, but they're similar.
They're what I would call a family more than a series.
Yes. Good. Yes.
All right, we got some more people that have chimed in on their number 5. GTS says,
well, which one is it? GTS or CSS? They are different.
Yes,
they're similar. They're different.
Then of course Stigler.
I thought he was giving us 5-1. Wait a minute. Number 5 is GBACW. What the hell?
Good grief!
Gareth is old school tactical. And Tim Zale says, "Great choice, Jester. I didn't even think of that. I know. I outthink you all. Outthink you all."
Tim's sucking up to you. I don't know why.
He wants to take one of our spots, Ruff.
He's been.
I will give you Jester's email. I'll give you his email.
Me. He said, "When Ruff goes away on his conference, you call me up, and I'm in." Number 4, Mr. Ardwulf. What do you have for your series?
The Library of Napoleonic Battles.
And we just talked about this as
We
your
did just talk
underrated
about
series
this.
game.
I think it is a great series. One of the cool things about it is it's Napoleon's Last Battles, which is a very simple game system by today's standards, with a modest layer of extra chrome on top. Right, there is more than you had in 1970, whatever it was, but not that much more. What more is there, though, does change it significantly enough that I strongly prefer the modern incarnation, Library of Napoleonic Battles, rather than the old incarnation, Napoleon's Last Battles. I really like having the new way that the barrages work, for example. I think it's just better. It makes more sense. It's an oddball series in terms of scale because it kind of fits uncomfortably between operational and tactical. Its scale, if you look at it, suggests operational, but the mechanics suggest tactical. And that's an artifact of where it came from, right? That's why it's not La Bataille. But some of those battles, there's some, it runs the range from really small battles that take an hour to huge battles that'll take a whole weekend. But it really doesn't. You could play the campaign in a couple of days at a 3-day convention, for example, of Napoleon's Last Gamble. That's probably the biggest experience you can have with that system. So it's a nice, modest-sized system that nevertheless has a lot to do. It has a lot of coverage. It probably has more coverage of Napoleonic battles than any other series, with the possible exception of Jour de Gloire, which is a game system I haven't really looked at. But they've been doing that for years now, and there's a ton of battles for it. But the packaging of like 4 or 5 battles or whatever it is per box in the Library of Napoleonic Battles works really well. So, and it deserves more attention than it gets.
All right, Ruff, you're number 4, please.
Okay, and like Ardy said, ask me in a couple of months, this will be a completely different list. Honorable mentions, as Mike said, Flying Colours, Next War, and the Leader series, which I love. But I think on number 4 is going to be Battles of the American Revolution series. I just
nice.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Very good.
Rolling your 6 for the Brits and 1's for the...
Yeah, okay. Everybody says I was fixing the dice. I actually wasn't. But when I did throw well for the Brits, I did go a bit over the top with my...
Here's the die. Oh, look, it was a 6.
I had the blooming dice tower there. But I did.
Those were artificially generated sound effects added in post.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, there was lots of you whipping and me woo woo and all this sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's simple enough, and I like the thing is I like the subject. I do like that. I'm getting more and more into that, and again with the Redcoats and all that sort of thing, and with the new one out and the new tri-pack coming out, also the new. They've got a snazzy name for these because it's Boar, isn't it? Battles of the American Revolution. They've got mini games like Herman's doing with the American Civil War, doing some smaller battles.
They're doing one game. Yeah,
they're doing that for Battles of the American Revolution, mini Boar or something like that. So, but I like it. It's simple enough, and I recommend if somebody's interested in that subject, it's simpler than the Men of Iron series, and it's simpler, of course, to Great Battles of History. So it's a nice intro into sort of historic hex and counter battles, if you're interested in the subject, of course. So,
I think Gary, I saw you on Twitter said they can package up anything they want to, or was that on the show?
No, that was on Twitter. Yeah, whatever multi-pack they want to do, I'm happy to buy it.
Yeah, I'm happy to buy that too.
It's worth the money. It's worth the money.
Yep.
Tremendous value in that tri-pack.
Yeah,
tremendous. 4 battles in there, so they should have called it a quad pack. But
the Utah was just an.
I get that one's smaller.
That's still a good packet. Yeah, it's still a good.
But that's the one I videoed because that's the one most people who play that tri-pack will try. And it's quite funny because you go after the foragers. So.
It's easy to play. It plays smoothly and cleanly and relatively quickly. It's a currently being sold in a tremendous value package.
Yeah, and also the Brits are involved.
And you can shoot them.
Yes. They say I fixed the dice, but I don't. Sorry, Tone. Off you go.
Okay, number 4, Lock and Load Tactical.
Awesome.
All I have to say is I'm finding myself more tactically oriented.
Wait a minute. Everyone's got. I don't know if you know. We have a drinking game. Every time Tony mentions Lock and Load, we all drink.
You'll see that all except for one that I have left are all tactical, and I'm finding myself in that tactical thing, and I love the differences. I like the games that are different. That show different ways of doing tactical. So, I think I am too tactically. Yeah, heading towards the tactical. So, Lock and Load Tactical doesn't care. Could be Falklands, could be World War II. Doesn't care. I like it.
Absolutely.
Jester.
My number 4. I wish there was more games in this series. We actually talked about it just a little bit ago. It is, of course, Combat Commander series.
But you don't have to have the games. That's what's so cool about it. That's what the RSG does. It gets you more. You've got the RSG. If you own them all, you can do a ton of crap stuff with that. So, yeah.
Yes. And
the RSG.
Random Scenario Generator. They actually have a whole system.
They have that in that one as well.
Yeah. Combat Commander has that too.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what he was saying, Combat Commander. That's why he wanted more games to it.
I am so hyped that it's getting re-released hopefully in the next month or two by GMT.
It was his favorite game and he sold it.
And it's one of my all-time favorites. And when I saw Tony playing the other day, I wanted to reach in through the grate and strangle him because he just inspired me to order it and get it. And now I just think it's great. I know people have problems with it, and I understand why.
I'll wait until I played Combat Commander. I've got the Europe and Mediterranean dual pack.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is the way
you'll get to that in 2025 when it releases.
That's fine because I've got enough to give me getting on with. God's sake, stop releasing again.
Plenty of Panzer to play until then.
Yeah,
Number 3, guys. Number 3. Ardwulf, you're up first.
So this is probably going to surprise some folks. My number 3 is OCS.
I am surprised.
I kind of.
I thought it was going to be your number 1 or number 2 at the minimum.
I think that's reasonable, and I think if you had asked me 3 weeks ago or a month from now or whatever, I might have said that. But this is where I'm at this exact moment. OCS has. I think the secret to OCS is not necessarily the specific mechanics as such. I mean, you got the somewhat detailed logistics. You've got the surprise rule, which is significant. You've got the command and control, which ties into the supply. And I think those are attractive features. But for me, what makes OCS interesting is its sort of puzzle-like play, right? You've got your assets that you have on the map in terms of your units. You have the battle space that's represented by the map. And you have a set amount, whatever it is, of points to do things with. And you have to make decisions based on where to allocate those points. Should I allocate those points this turn, or should I wait and hoard them up, and then I can really push really hard? Or did I wait too long, and now I have to deal with an opposing counterattack that just knocked over a bunch of the things I was planning to do, right? And I've been in both of those situations. So that's what I like about OCS and also it's a big series. It's got a lot of meat. There's big games, small games, scenarios, even in the big games. So you're not necessarily. I know people think you got to play the campaign, so it's not worth having if you can't play the campaign. I mean, okay, but I play the campaigns, but there's nothing wrong with playing scenarios as long as it's a game with well-designed scenarios. If it's a game with shitty scenarios, that's different. But I have never had that complaint about something out of the gamers.
All right, to keep things moving along, I'm going to ask you guys, please keep your information down to within 2 minutes. I'm going to have to start cutting you off after 2 minutes. Otherwise, this show's not going to end until 6:30.
Is this the Oscars?
I know, it's terrible.
I feel like I'm going to direct the Oscars now because y'all just keep talking like a bunch of old ladies.
Stop talking.
Number 3.
I just want to say I'm so pleased you picked operational series because that is has Euro mechanics in it, resource management, as me and Tony like to say, and that does piss people off. So anyway,
Dean is loudly very upset by that.
But my number, was it number 2?
3.
Number three, sir. Number 3.
It's going to be Great Battles of History series.
Really?
So much stuff.
Really?
I haven't played. Yeah, I haven't played it on the channel. I've played a bit with Tweez. I've pushed counters about. It's just I do like it. This is a step up from Battles of the American Revolution and a step up from Men of Iron. So I've come through. I've done my apprenticeship. I started with Battles of the American Revolution, then Men of Iron, and so Great Battles of History isn't as daunting as it could be. But again, once you play it, and you've played it, Tony, once you get into the rhythm,
it's not hard at all.
No, it's a great system.
It's a pretty easy system to once you start realizing what it's doing. Yeah.
When you realize how it works. Yeah.
Well, Ruff, that's my number 3 as well.
Right. I was just going to say another
really?
honourable mention. Sorry, I forgot completely. Why would I not mention Warfighter if that's a series? But it's not. But I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah, so 3 is Great Battles of History. Same thing. So much stuff. It covers you can go from Japan to Rome to Greece to
Mongols. Everything.
Yeah, India. So
and again, the current products are tremendous value packages.
Yep. The Julius Caesar box is phenomenal.
Yeah.
SPQR, Alexander, all 3 of those are.
I'm waiting for
value.
Alexander to come out. I haven't got that, so I'm waiting.
I got the last one. I don't need the.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I haven't got it.
Okay, Jester, you're number 3.
My number 3. I was going to put coin here, but then I thought somebody's head was going to explode. Like, that's not a war game. So I changed it to TCS, Tactical Combat System.
Really?
That's very interesting because I haven't played that. It's on the to-do list.
I think I don't play it. I get it out. I read the rules. I set it up. And then I put it away. I don't literally play it, and I think it's one of the. And the reason I don't is because being a YouTuber, I don't want to put something out there that's a mess with rules and corrections, and I did everything wrong and blah blah blah. And I don't feel like I know this game good enough to actually do like a live stream of it. So,
Goose Green is going to be good for that because it's going to be real small.
Yeah, and Ariane, that was the other small one, wasn't it?
Ariete.
I mean, I've got a lot of TCS, but I've not put it on the channel. It's quite because you have to put down orders, the pair of you when you play it 2-player. Solo wise, it's a bit. But remember Kev saying, just put down advance, or go left or whatever, or do 2 or 3 of them and pick one randomly, and that's your orders. So. You may well. I do like it, but it's I can see where you're coming from. Sorry,
that's all right. Absolutely. All right, we're down to our top 2, and this these top 2 were really tough for me. I don't know how easy or tough it was for you guys, but I mean, this whole list was tough. I literally had things, got rid of things because I was like Dean. I was like, oh, I completely forgot about this. I have to put this on my list. And there was another one that I was like, oh, I got. And then I was like, I can't replace one of my games with this, so it's not going to make it. Anyways, number 2, Mr. Ardwulf.
Great campaigns of the American Civil War.
You've got PC, right?
This will also be number 1, depending on when you ask me. If I've played it lately, it's likely to be number 1, actually. Great system. Really captures Civil War operational.
Which is
really
weird. Which is a different because most everything's either full game or tactical.
Yeah, there's not. I wouldn't call. Same with Napoleonics. Really, there's not really a robust history of games covering the topic at that particular scale with both Civil War and Napoleonics. The differences between the two. There's a really strong dominant system for it in Civil War, and there really isn't in Napoleonics.
I'm
great system.
Hoping not to get into it because my rabbit hole is great.
I've actually sold all mine because I like it. It's a great system. It's just like it's too much. I have too much other stuff that I like. So
well, you got to prioritize. What can I say? That said, you have prioritized poorly.
Well, I think somebody put it bluntly on our Facebook page. They were like, "Oh, this list is too easy because everyone's going to put GBACW on the list.
Maybe
So
it's that damn good.
it's
It
right.
is.
I mean, everyone loves this system,
Mhm.
and I was
Except
the
for
one guy that
Stigler.
wrote back, none of your games are on my list.
Yeah, Stigler hates GB ACW.
I don't know that he hates it, but he's not real big on it.
No, he's more into decision solo games, I think. But
Oh yeah. The many
But
fine solo experiences
I
available from
must
decision
admit,
games.
just the look of GC AECW, is that they look gorgeous.
It's also gorgeous. Yes, that's
Yeah,
true.
and I'm just. Wait! I've got to get into Napoleonics and other things yet. Wait a minute. So, my number 2.
Yes, sir.
It's not been on the channel, but I do enjoy playing it, and I play it badly probably, which is why it's not on the channel. Is Lock and Load Tactical, because again I've
We
got
will be changing that, Ruff.
lots. Where is it? Oh, it's there. Look, lots of it. I'm a tactical guy. I think I like operational, and not played too many strategical stuff apart from B-17, and we're going to play a bit of Paths of Glory, but mainly it's down zooming in to the sort of platoon, squad, man-on-man level. I do like that. And Lock and Load is crunchy, but this again, you'll see my number 1. You probably guess what my number 1 is. But there's so much stuff. I like games when you get a game and you buy another one, but you don't have to have one to play the other because they're all separate things. But you get like 20 scenarios or 15 scenarios in each one. And of course, you don't have to clip the counters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hold on, and it's of course published by Lock and Load.
Shockingly.
Sorry, this is our drinking game, Hardy. Sorry, a bit
All right,
childish.
Tony, you're number 2, please.
Coin.
Really?
Yeah, I thought you'd say that. Yeah,
Coin all the way. 100. I love.
I don't know why.
I think it's because I like a lot of the economics and the political part behind it's got the war, but it's also got the political behind it, and I like because war and politics go together. So I like that part. So yeah, Coin, definitely. I like the newer ones more than the original ones, but Liberty or Death is still my favorite because it actually does have legit battles in it. So
That's the one I would get because, of course, it's Brits again. So that's the only one I would get.
Pendragon actually is I think my favorite. That's got Brits in it too.
I know, but it's all sort of like they were running around in sort of loincloths and half naked.
There are loincloths and half naked barbarians.
I really think if Ruff sat down and played Pendragon, he would actually really, really like it because
tell you what,
it's not like the other coin games. You actually have to physically attack. There's dice rolling with attacks. There's combat modifiers with your amount of units you have, defensive structures, building castles. I mean, it is a full blown
let's
war
put
game.
this out here. I'm going to my first convention over here in Old Blighty PunchCon. If somebody's playing a coin game and want to convert me over, then drag me over to the table and teach it to me. It might be different if we play it with actual tactile bits and pieces and all that sort of thing. And playing with peeps might be different. So there we go.
okay.
My number 2, and by the way, Tony, you mentioned Coin. That was the one that I went to put on my list because I was like, oh, I forgot about Coin. But I couldn't take any of these games off the list for Coin. So Coin would probably be my number 6. Just so you know, I love it too. I love it too. But my number 2, I'm like Ardwulf. My number 1 and my number 2, they would fluctuate just depending on which was the last one I played. My number 2 is just like Ruff. Lock and Load Tactical. Everyone drink. Again, we're going to be drinking.
I'm squiffy already, but it is 10 o'clock.
Lock and Load Tactical. I think it's a great system. I think it's when you have all the different games, you have so much content in each of those boxes, and everything that you've already said about it. I mean,
can't wait for the
Bitter Harvest.
Bitter Harvest with
right.
the And going forward, what I like about it is they are sort of evolving, and each game now is going to have its own solo. Okay,
well, I was going to say the one thing that separates this from I have 28 different tactical. The one thing that this has that none of the other ones have is a solo module, and I know that's not important to most people, but I cannot play tactical games. Right, I can't play tactical games. I just can't do it. I can't play both sides.
Out specific solo bots for each game now, whereas before you had a generic solo bot, and it works okay. But yeah, now I think every game is going to have this specific solo bot in it, and and that's great.
Looking really
don't use it. You know.
Well, it's time for the big boy, the number one, the best of the best, the most inspirational series that you could see ever. What do we have?
As of today. This is something that would not have made the top 5 at all, say 6 months ago. BCS.
Yeah.
That I think it's really coming through for us. We're playing last Blitzkrieg. I had played it before, and it just kind of didn't quite seem to line up. And I think that's a combination of things. We're playing with an older rule set. I think we probably screwed some stuff up. That probably didn't help. We were playing a less attractive topic than the Bulge to me personally. It's really working exceptionally well for us. You know, playing the new rules. Last Blitzkrieg, of course, is the first game in the series. But we're playing with the current version 2. I think it's version 2 rules.
Yeah.
And it's really good. It boils a lot of the underlying like design goals are the same that they would be in OCS, but it boils all of that accounting stuff with the surprise and with the logistics and all that stuff kind of down to just that one snafu roll that you then have to try to optimize and keep optimizing. And the act of doing that puts you in the headspace of the person in charge of that group of formations, right? You have to decide what formation you want to activate. When you do the activation, you have to decide, because it's built into the game, what you are trying to accomplish with that formation on that particular activation. Are you going to get the second activation and maybe, make something really happen? Or maybe not. If I'm rolling the dice, usually not. So
yeah, that snafu roll is that thing is
it's
like
genius. Absolute genius.
Perfect. Yes, it really is.
All right. That is I know you've talked about it quite a few times in your Monday show, and I know that you talk very highly of it. I completely forgot that would probably be your number one. And I think that's great. I think a series that comes out of nowhere and inspires you is great for the hobby. It's great for people in general.
I don't know that it came out of nowhere. I mean, it's not like Dean Essig has never designed a decent game before, right?
Well, I mean,
mechanics are off out of nowhere.
Yeah. Was the first game in the series, right?
Mechanics are complete. Well, there's 5 or 6 games in the series now. And it took us a while to get used to it. And we my first exposure to it at all was actually some other people were playing it at Buckeye Game Fest about, 6 or 7 years ago. And they, these are like the Labatai guys. And they were playing, they saw the optional chit pull mechanism rule. And so they said, oh, well, obviously it's intended to be played with this chit pull rule, even though it's optional. So they played with the chit pull rule and they all hated it. I'm like, no, don't do that. That like limits that removes the decision space from the player, right? I want to be forced to choose what formation I'm going to activate next.
Right. All right, Ruff, what do you got for number one?
Well, just talking about BCS, that Tweez goes on about it all the time. It's so different. And if we weren't playing NUC Paris 1914 at PunchCon, I'd probably introduce me to BCS. And Dangerous Dave's in the chat. And I know you may have taken it down by now, and I'm rubbish at getting to put things on and what we're playing. But if we're still playing Nemesis, if you're still playing Nemesis Lockdown, put me down. I'll play that. Yeah, because that's a good game. Anyway, but he's probably taking it down. My number one, because you've asked me this week, And if you ask me next week, it'll be something different. But because I played it with Tony, and because there's so much stuff, and it was such a laugh, it's Panzer Grenadier.
Oh, you oh my God. Ardwulf is never coming back. Thanks, guys.
Put me down, Dave. Put me down. I'm not sure.
Man, I enjoy getting kicked in the balls from time to time. So
I love it. I love it. And because I played it with Tone, it sort of enhances the experience.
That makes a difference.
And then he did win too. That was the other thing.
That could make a difference.
Yeah. But even when I did my playthrough, I enjoyed and I made mistakes and people pointed that out, and that's great. But when I did that, it's great. I just like it.
I'd rather have my colon scraped than play
No,
Panzer Grenadier.
it's his fault, you see. No,
obviously.
But then again, I think I'd rather have a rectal, alien rectal.
These guys never even heard of it until I mentioned
an OCS. It's relative.
I completely get that. The only difference is OCS is good. So you may not like it, and that's completely reasonable. I don't think Panzer Grenadier is good. If you guys, seriously, if you guys are having a good time with it, I am legitimately happy for you. I think it is an abject turd, and I don't know, but again, there are people that like it, not just you guys. It's believe it or not, there are other people.
No, you're supposed to go. It's not for me, but I'm glad you're enjoying it. You're not.
That's what I'm saying. It's not for me. I think it's a turd.
You're calling it a turd. You're going to roll it in glitter in a minute.
I could. You guys are doing that on your spectacular live streams.
And we are.
It has been around since 1992, so there's obviously a lot of people that like
it.
So.
Yes, it's been around forever. There's like a wonderful community site for it where people log their plays and new scenarios and all that stuff.
I've tried to watch OCS, and it's been around just as long, and I fall asleep.
Oh, if you watch OCS video, that's a bad idea. Don't watch OCS video. No. You might as well watch math videos.
Thank God that we're all different. That's all I can say.
Tony, number one for you, sir.
ATS, no doubt about it. I love it.
You remembered it this time. That's good.
Yeah.
Remember it.
This is the advanced Tobruk system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I think you have to say that because nobody actually knows.
Nobody knows what it is.
Well, most of them do because most of them have heard me talk about it. But yes, it's advanced Tobruk system.
Mitch will be very pleased.
When actually me and Mitch are playing tomorrow. We're going to play some Japanese Americans or play some Pacific tomorrow. But no, I love the impulse system. I found I like impulse systems. I don't like I go, you go. I like impulse systems where the battle is always fluctuating. You can take advantage of like when somebody makes a mistake, you can do that. So I love it. It's also 84 pages of rules instead of 462 pages of rules.
A wee trifle.
Yeah. But I think the impulse system is what really sold me on that one.
Right. And there's a crew called the ATS
FE. Yep. Me and Evan and Mitch.
Him and Mitch and a few guys. They're doing videos, introducing it to people, tutorial videos, playthroughs, and walkthroughs. And
real missed branding opportunity, though. They should have called him the ATS.
They're kind of taking it upon themselves to actually do what the company should do, right?
Yeah. They should call themselves the ATSs.
Yeah, there you go.
In my opinion, and I haven't played that. And there are people that like it. I don't really have anything to say about it. What scares me is the publisher.
Yeah,
which has a
I have everything. I have enough to play. I could care less if they put out anything else anymore.
It's the same with Avalanche Press. It's with Panzer Grenadier that the publisher is much
an idiosyncratic publisher.
I've got enough to last me until I pop my clogs.
So I would like to do my number one.
Okay,
nobody's interested.
Nobody's interested in my number one, and I am shocked. I am literally shocked that it has not been mentioned and nobody has said anything about it. It is the command and color system. Holy cow! How is that not ranked up in the top 5 of anybody? And nobody even in the chat has mentioned it. You have Napoleonics, you have World War I, you have Civil War, you have Ancients, you have I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and not one person mentioned it. Are you people just not paying attention?
Gotta make
Come
choices.
on, it's like the greatest system ever. You have
must be a
Battle
reason.
Line,
Certainly not.
Battle. What is it? Battle War. You can do it fantasy. You can do space. What is the space one's called? Red Alert.
Red Alert. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like I mean, there's all kinds of different games that use this system.
I think Stigler says, if you're not into blocks, you're not into blocks. Having said that, I have Ancients, and that's great fun. But I think that's where my love is going to lie. I'm not going to move out to Napoleonics and all that sort of thing. It's something I'm hoping to play with my son one day.
It's a great system.
Yeah.
Probably my number 8, I would say.
Yeah, it's a great
It would be a top
easy
10.
to learn.
Yeah.
And because it's got blocks rather than counters, it's something more tactile. You can see what's going on, and it's
Yeah,
nobody
big
nobody
counters.
mentioned it, so they would wind me up, get me all frustrated. Yeah. Best starting game for ATS, Tony.
Oh.
I mean, you'd think it would be just regular Tobruk, wouldn't you?
No.
It's not. I'm aware that that's the wrong
just
answer.
Play the Tobruk game because that's where it came from.
There's actually any of them actually. Honestly, there's not a bad one to start with. There's not like one I would say, do this one first. No, they're all. Get one that you're interested in topic wise. That's
One thing that kept me away from it, aside from Critical Hit's reputation, is just you look at their website and okay, so I'm interested in this. What do I get exactly? That's not at all clear.
Yeah.
And you don't even
trust me,
realize
you're
you
not-
have to order the rules separately. The box does not even come in the
ASL is
rules.
the same thing. ASL is the same thing. You have to have the rules separately. So
In an amazing coincidence.
But the difference, I think, between, as you said, Tony, is unlike a advanced squad leader where you've got that amount of rules which you might have to use. You've got that amount of rules which you'll use only that bit more most of the time. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the same thing with ASL. You literally use 10% of the rules 90% of the time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
probably
Yeah,
80-20 is I would say. But
Yeah. But anyways, no, it's trust me, we're not the fanboys. We're just as critical of Critical Hit as anybody else is because
It's like me with Avalanche Press.
Yeah.
I'm
it's more
critical
like
of them,
Critical Miss, to be honest.
Yeah.
but I love the game. The guy invented a great game.
And I know Critical Hit. I know they make their money on the ASL stuff because everybody buys their ASL stuff. That's where
they crank it out because they don't have to bother with trifles like proofreading or testing or any of that.
Top 5 gamer on next week. Oh yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. I got a video. I've been meaning to do it this weekend. Maybe today or tomorrow. I'm going to try and get it down.
Top 5 reasons why Fleet Commander Nimitz is the greatest game ever.
No.
I wanted to like that. I nearly ordered it and then I didn't. I'm sorry.
I just didn't.
No.
Well, unfortunately, like time flies when you're having fun, and I'm having fun as usual every week at this time. I have a great time with my mates here, and of course with our special guest. Thank you, Ardwulf, for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's only felt like 7 or 8 hours.
Oh, charming.
Wow. Do not invite a list.
Monday, 8:00. Tuesday, 8:00. Anything
Tuesday,
else?
7:30. 7:30.
Oh, sorry, 7:30 on Tuesday.
That's why nobody watches, because it's a weird time.
It's Canadian time or something weird.
Yeah, it's weird Canadian time.
The hockey game started.
It's only worth
7:30.
half of what American time is what it is.
It's the hockey game started 7:30, so that's what they do. Oh my god, that is too funny. Great show. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much.
Great fun. Thanks,
and,
Artie.
Again, thank you.
Yep, thanks for having
coming
me.
out. We appreciate it. And Tony and Ruff, good job as always, man.
Cool.
No, that's great.
Chester, you did well too. Thank you. All right, we'll see everybody next week.
Yeah.
Until then, everyone take care, and we'll see you all next week.
See ya.
Ah.